Thanks for having me. This is cool. I was a big fan of season 1, so. Can you see if someone could bring a carton plushie? I just want it in the couch in the back. All right, cool. Voila. My name is Cole Bennett, owner and founder of Lyrical Lemonade. Wait one second. Should I say music video director? Which I don't know what to.
However you like.
However I'm saying. Okay. Being in the creative industry, you kind of had to figure out yourself and make the decisions for yourself because no one knows this brand better than I do and what I want it to be. And I related that back to a quote of Quentin Tarantino when he worked on Reservoir Dogs. You know, that's his first feature film. And he said that, you know, there were PAs on set that knew more about film than him and, you know, production, everything. But he said that no one in that room know how to tell that story better than he did. And that's kind of how I feel with Lyrical Lemonade. You know, in those early moments, I wasn't looking for advice or mentorship or anything because it's something new. It was something fresh and it hadn't been done before. And the only person who knew how to get it done was me and wherever I took it. And here we are. I want people to think of Lyrical Lemonade as an experience. I want people to hold a different memory close to themselves, whatever that means. Whether you went to an event, you watched a video, you have a piece of merchandise. I want it to just be a feeling, and it should bring some sort of emotion to you, whatever that may be. And the specific emotion that it brings to you is what makes it special. Growing up in Plano, there's nothing out there. You know, it's cornfields, it's the middle of nowhere. So you play football, you listen to music, you know, do what you can. There's not too much to it. My dad, he passed when I was 2 years old, so growing up, I just didn't even know what it meant to have a father. I remember when I found out that he had committed suicide, it just made me look at things differently. Some people would be like, it was a selfish decision or whatever it may be, but I kind of looked at it as it was a sacrifice that he had made for our family. We were dirt poor, we had nothing, and he had just some issues and some problems with, you know, with my mom, and there's so many things going on that he was kind of holding us back in a lot of ways. That's how he felt, at least, and I think that he made that decision to give us the best life he could because he knew what my mom was capable of. She was working 3 jobs and doing anything she could to make sure we were okay. There was a Christmas where she sold like our furniture to get us Christmas gifts. She was always working nonstop, and she was always creative too. Like if she was working a sales job, I remember she would get like candy and stuff and like put little slogans on it to hand out to her customers. You know, she was just like a marketer. She was creative, she was driven, she was passionate about getting it done at all moments. I remember one moment she wanted to write a book, and then she opened a bar. Like she was just doing everything. I remember having anxiety when I started to get to that point where I was beginning to understand how much my mom had really done for me my whole life and how much she did for me and my 2 sisters. And thinking in my head, I don't know how I'm ever gonna be able to repay my mother. That was an anxiety. There was nothing that she couldn't do. If she put her mind to it, she could do it. And that's me, you know? That's how I feel I am, and I got it from her. Where I'm from is definitely like in the middle of nowhere. It's cornfields, and a lot of people listen to country music, but there was a pocket of people who listen to rap. That was me and my friends. I got put onto it by my older sister when I was a kid. She showed me 50 Cent, and the first album I ever bought was Get Rich or Die Trying, and I would literally sleep, you know, and wake up, and it would just be playing the whole night. When I was 8 years old, listening to 50 Cent, that was way more exciting to me than listening to a country song that felt like it was written lyrics by someone else. Something about it made me feel connected to it and wanted to hear more. 8th grade, freshman year of high school, I had a friend actually who moved from Chicago to Plano. His name is Bernie. He's a great friend of mine, and he showed me Chief Keef and Alex Wiley and Vic Mensa and all these, you know, different artists that were coming up in Chicago at this time. And I remember listening to, it was an Alex Wiley song or it was a Chance the Rapper song. And I remember watching the video and thinking, this is the best thing I've ever heard. I'm hooked. And from that point on, I just dug into the Chicago local scene. I didn't listen to anything else. I couldn't have told you what was on the radio. I really couldn't have, because there was so much going on in Chicago at that time. I was watching from afar for a few months, and then I was like, I need to go experience this. And I would start going to the city whenever I could, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, and go to any show I could and just experience it up close and personal. And I'd bring my camera whenever I had the opportunity to, because I just wanted to capture content. And from there, I mean, the love, it just grew immensely, and there was no looking back at that point. I knew for a fact that this is what I love. There's a moment in time when you realize what your passion is, and I realized what my passion was at that moment. I saved up for a GH4, and then I played around with the settings, shot what I thought looked good. Obviously, if you were to critique it, there were some errors and some problems in there, but you know, it was really just, you know, that's the basis of what art is. If you love it, if you feel good about it, then you're doing it right, and that's how it felt. I think everything was self-taught because I didn't know anything about what I was doing. And through all the errors and the mistakes and everything, you kind of learn how to figure it out. When I was getting into the Chicago hip-hop scene, blogs were a very, very relevant thing.
A lot of people aim towards these different vlogs, like, man, they shot shit for this, they shot, you know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be like, they shot this shit for me.
It was the way that you had found out about new music. I wanted to start a blog and just, you know, highlight some of these people that no one was talking about. And that those were the first thoughts of Lyrical Lemonade. I was 17. My mom owned a bar at this point in Plano, and I remember she had like a website, and I was like, I want a website. Like, I need to do what you're doing. Like, so give me the contact. And she gave me his contact information. I remember he was going to come over a night that week to help me build the website. And I knew I wanted to have one word that had nothing to do with music, and then a word that had something to do with music. And I remember it was like, I wanted it to be a fruit or a vegetable. I knew that much, because I wanted it to be a cool way to market and just have fun, and I want the colors to pop, and I knew that. And then we were going back and forth with ideas, and my mom said Lyrical Lemonade. I was like, I don't know about that one. And then I thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, it's perfect. And that's how it started. That's how it started.
Lemonade. Okay. First line, you know I got the Lyrical Lemonade.
Shout out to Lyrical Lemonade. It's delicious.
I was shooting videos, I was shooting recap videos, I was writing on the blog. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to throw a show. That was my next challenge. I wanted to bring this community that I'd built on the internet from an hour away, you know, from the city, and I wanted to bring everyone together, and I wanted to throw a show and see these people's faces come together, and I wanted to see people enjoy it from the crowd. I wanted to see people enjoy it on the stage. And there's this building called the Music Garage. It's a classic recording space in Chicago, and they have a rehearsal room, but you can also rent it out for shows. It's 90-person capacity. I booked it for $150. I was mowing lawns, and I saved up, and I booked it for $150. And I said that the show was gonna be free admission, so I asked all the artists if they could come out and perform for free, because no one was performing at shows really, so like of course, like no one, you know, we're just bringing people out, and we're just doing it for the love of it. I remember a ton of people showed out, and just I got to meet so many people and really see for the first time Lyrical Lemonade coming together in a moment where I was like, wait, this is something more than I could have ever imagined. And at that point, that was like my first wake-up moment of, oh, this is something. But that was a very special night that I'll never forget. The biggest thing for me always was to set my next goal as a realistic goal. So when I threw my first show with 100 people, I was like, oh, there's this one venue that holds 250 people that I want to do. And that was, you know, it was tunnel vision to that. And then once we did that and we sold that out, I was like, okay, I think we could do Reggie's Rock Club, which holds 500 people. Then we did Reggie's Rock Club. So it's like, it was about just inching up that ladder one by one, you know, one step at a time. You can't go A to Z. You have to appreciate every letter within. You got to go B, C, you have to go all the way down. A lot of people, have really big dreams, but big dreams can slow you down sometimes because you are trying to bite off more than you could chew.
So this section, make some noise. All right, middle, make some noise for me real quick.
Throwing a show at the Metro, that was the goal. But I think I want to book someone outside of Chicago now. I think it's time to take that step. And I was a big fan of Uzi and Cardi at this time, and this is February of 2016. Uzi's from Philadelphia. I was like, I have no idea how to get in contact with this person. So I Googled how to book Lil Uzi Vert, and an agency website popped up, and I clicked on it, and I called a few numbers, and before you knew it, I was on the phone with his agent, and then on the phone with his manager. And at this time, Uzi was going for $8,000, and I needed to put down a 25% deposit on him. So it was $2,000, and I'd saved that up from, videos here and there. And I put all the money I had into booking Lil Uzi Vert at the Metro.
I said, can I perform my favorite song for y'all?
I remember announcing the show, and because everything was so important to me, right down to the flyer and the illustrations and everything. Like, this was all so important to me. The packaging, the presentation had to be perfect. I still wanted to have that Chicago-centric theme to it. I remember announcing the show, and people were just blown away. They couldn't believe that it was the Lyrical Lemonade show, that this was happening. And at that moment, I felt very accomplished, just because that was the first moment where we did something that was bigger than the city. It was taking a step outside the city, but it was bringing it to Chicago. It was exciting. It was a very exciting moment for me, and that show went on to change my life in many, many ways. So I was gonna go to DePaul because it had a good film program. It was difficult. School and working they were in this constant battle for top priority. And when that summer happened in between my freshman and my sophomore year of college, that was when I really broke in there, because at that point, when school was out, my only priority was Lyrical Lemonade. So I remember coming back for sophomore year, things were a little bit different. School started to kind of fall down on the priority list because I was just working nonstop. I would shoot a video, put it out the next day. I was editing it until 6, 7 a.m. I had class at 9 a.m. I was trying to make it. And I remember I would always make it to class. So I would just sleep all through class. I remember people would look at me and just be like, this dude is just slacking. He's just, he doesn't care about this. Craziest moment of my career, most pivotal moment of my career. Meeting Dex, I loved Famous Dex, and I loved what he was bringing to the Chicago scene. He was having fun and showing energy and just being goofy and showing a side that a lot of people from Inglewood, Chicago don't show. I was fortunate enough to shoot a behind the scenes for him, and he had saw the BTS I did, and a couple weeks later he called me. He's like, hey, let's shoot a video tonight. And I'll never forget where I was. I was pumping gas in my sister's Prius, and I went to his house in Inglewood, and we hit him with it in his basement. And I'll never forget this. I remember shooting the video, coming home, and within an hour of being home, he asked to see the video. And I was like, I haven't even looked at the footage myself. And I remember I was editing it, and I had so many ideas on what I wanted to do for this video and edit techniques and stuff, but he was like, yo, we need to drop this tomorrow. I stayed up all night, finished the video probably 8 a.m., and then I had my editing class, actually, funny enough, at 10 a.m. in the Loop downtown. It was my first video to ever hit 1 million views. And when that hit 1 million views, I didn't even know what to think. I never thought in my life that I would have a video that hit 1 million views. I never thought it was even possible. It was a removed idea from my mind. I was talking earlier about having big dreams, and you have realistic goals leading up to them. That was one of those big dreams that I didn't even look at or think about, because it felt, out of this world. So when it did happen, I was like, wow, this is the thing. We're here. We'll see what happens next. But incredibly and immensely thankful for Dex and, all of our times together and working together. And he taught me so much, and, I can never repay him. never find a way to repay him. He's one of the most special people. Man, oh man. Mac was an idol of mine when I was a kid. He had a fun side, he had a deep side. He was profound and articulate, but he was like funny and goofy at the same time. And he was just inspiring in a lot of ways. Getting to work with Mac, it was a crazy full circle moment, because life moves so quick sometimes. You never get to really stop and pause and be like, no, this is happening. And like, you know, I have these moments sometimes where I stop and I'm like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe this is how my life turned out. One of those moments was after I got done shooting the video with Mac. We're in Mac's backyard, and he was just sitting there, it was sunset, and he was just smoking a cigarette. He was sitting by himself, and I remember just walking up to him. I was like, well, it's my time to go. Because I was with him a couple days before, and we were talking about the video, and we'd obviously be on the phone and all these things. But you want to be professional. You don't want to be like, yo, like, I'm your #1 fan, you know? You're supposed to be there. You want to be, you know, do your service and do your job, and you know, that's what you're there for. But at the end of the day, I was like, this is my time to really express my appreciation for him and everything he's done for me. I just walked up to him, and I was like, yo, I just want to let you know, like, you're one of my biggest inspirations, and today was, you know, surreal in so many ways, and I just want to tell you thank you. And he looked at me, and he said, man, he said, thank you so much. He said, that means more to me than you know. And he's like, I've been watching your stuff too. He's like, I'm a fan as well. From there, you know, we would just talk often, and we had built a friendship, and it was really special, because he would call me in the middle of the night and crack a joke or whatever it would be, and every time he would do it, like, it became a normal thing, it became natural, but I'd be like, yo, that's insane, that's Mac Miller, that's like my idol. And, you know, sometimes these people become your friends and your peers and, you know, frequent collaborators, and it truly is a blessing.
Fans and neighbors leaving flowers, candles, notes on rapper Mac Miller's doorstep.
I'll never forget when Mac passed and how I felt. I just broke down bawling, and like, I was crying. I remember, like, that's the most I've cried in a long time. I remember like crying throughout the week. When I was crying, I wasn't thinking, or I was going through these moments, I wasn't thinking about our times that we had spent together or working with him, or, you know, I was thinking about when I was a kid listening to his music and what it did for me, and how his music had got me through hard times, and like the feeling before I even knew who he was. And that's the power of music. That's how deep it can drive into you. I valued it more than I realized. Rest in peace to one of the most talented and special people that I've ever gotten to meet.
All right, man, we're about halfway through the first day. So far, so good. A little bit of stress, a lot of bit of fun. I think we're doing good right now.
The Summer Smash Festival started off as the Lyrical Lemonade Summer Bash, which was actually an indoor event that held about 1,300 people, and I did 2 years of that. And the dream was always to have a festival one day. You know, an outdoor festival, a real life festival. Not an indoor gathering or show, big concert, no, an outdoor festival. We thought Douglas Park would be a good place to bring this festival. You know, it's just a beautiful thing, because we're an independently funded, you know, and a lot of these artists who are involved in stuff, it's just a call away, and it's just, you know, a lot of direct relationships and just people wanting to be a part of something cool. So it doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel anything but natural. It's about bringing artists from all over the country together here in Chicago, giving Chicago something to be proud of, you know, because this festival is staying in Chicago and will not leave Chicago. We've been offered to have it be a traveling festival around the country, but it's important to me that it stays here. Chicago, you know, this city is what made me who I am. If I didn't stumble across this music scene, if I didn't move here when I was 17 years old with, you know, a dream, if I didn't go to every one of these shows and connect with every person I could and work with, you know, all these incredible, you know, local artists and just people within this community, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And, you know, that's very, very important to me. I'm a little overwhelmed, but I'm very happy. I'm happy more so than I'm overwhelmed. The money thing is crazy, because like I mean, I really, really genuinely don't care about money. And there's been 2 $30 million offers, everything in between over the years for just even like brand partnerships and like just things that don't even involve selling the company. Obviously, it's flattering hearing, you know, a $30 million offer, $25 million offer, a $40 million offer. But, you know, when you really believe in yourself and you really understand what you've built and you understand what your potential is and what you can become, none of that stuff really matters.
It's just crunch time. It's fourth quarter. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like Brett Favre or Tom Brady right now, just trying to make my way back into the game. Hopefully we get this W. But wait, we always get the W. No L's unless it's double L. And what they call that? Oh, Lyrical Lemonade. You know.
Lyrical Lemonade is a experience. Music videos, merchandise and clothing, beverage and consumables, the blog, and events. You may know the company for one of these things. You may know it for all of them. You may have a favorite. You may have a least favorite. But it's a widespread company that I want to continue building avenues and avenues and avenues. I want to keep seeing where it can go. Maybe one day, I'll no longer be having fun with it. And at that point, I'll be done with it. But for now, I'm having a blast, and I'm inspired, and I'm excited to see what else I can grow this into and where this empire can go. And I think that I have these moments where I stop and I think and I look up and I'm like, I cannot believe that I'm here. I cannot believe that these things are happening. And if I can always find a way to feel that, you know, and be able to pause and have those moments, then I'll be good. A fellow student of mine reached out to me. He's like, yo, I remember being in class with you and seeing you sleep every day and thinking you were just the laziest student in the world. He said, I never expressed that to you, but I just want to say I'm so sorry. I had no idea that you were building this. And that made me happy because, you know, you kind of need, not that we search for validation, but, you know, I remember feeling like a real, you know, outcast in school because I was so disconnected, because I was working so hard on my Lyrical Lemonade stuff. You just got to get behind something, and we all stood for something, and it was Lyrical Lemonade and outworking anyone and everyone.